Well, the thing is that it is possible in a very limited sense that actually providing these shell companies may not necessarily be illegal. The problem is what's done with them. So often we find shell companies being used for corruption, in large fraud cases, in cases of crime. Again and again we find shell companies of this kind popping up. So it's not enough to say we just provide the companies and then it's not our fault how people use them.
You say that the issue really is one of beneficial ownership. Explain to us what that means and what needs to be done.
Yeah. So the beneficial owner is the real person owning a company. And it may sound crazy, but in many countries, people just don't know often who is the owner of a company. It's possible to own a company totally anonymously. So, for example, if your neighbor is making noises and being annoying, if it turns out that house is actually owned by a shell company in the British Virgin Islands, good luck trying to get that problem fixed, right? So this is a very common problem that we find, and that's why the beneficial owner, the real human owner of the company, is so important to be able to identify, to hold them to account if they are engaged in criminal issues.
So how can that be done?
Well, what we are asking all governments in the world to do is to set up public registries of beneficial ownership. What this means is that there's a central register where all of the owners of companies are found in one place. This would be good for the authorities to be able to, carry out investigations, for journalists also to be able to investigate who's behind companies. So we think public registries are absolutely essential to be able to crack down on this global problem.
Okay, I look at the men who are sitting behind me. These are all men who are in positions of power. So do you think it's really realistic that what you're proposing will be done? These are the guys who make the rules.
Yeah. Well, we think that this is a bit like smoking in aeroplanes, right? So 20 years ago, smoking on aeroplanes was completely normal. Everyone was doing it, and today it's unthinkable to smoke on an airplane. What we hope is that we're close to that tipping point. A lot has moved forward in this area. So 2 or 3 years ago, this really wasn't an issue, and now it's everywhere. There are big conferences coming up this year where we really hope to push. There's one in May, which is being hosted by David Cameron, where many different organizations will be pushing this issue, so we hope to see change soon.
Okay, so how does this work? Is this country-specific, these public registries? I assume that they would work differently based upon which country?
They might work differently, but the important thing is that authorities and the public are able to find the information. That's the key thing. The principle is what's important. It has to be possible for the public to find information about who owns the companies. The technicalities can be worked out later, but that is the ultimate principle that has to be in place. Otherwise, these scandals will keep on happening again and again.
You have an economics background. Explain to us from an economic perspective, when we see practices like this, does it really have an impact on the broader majority of the population?
Absolutely. For example, it has to do with illegal or unfair competition. If you have a shell company that's competing in your market and you can't find out who's owning it, then how are you going to try and, if they're, for example, acting as a monopoly or in some way illegally or unfairly, undercutting your market, it's very hard to take action against them. Just to take one example, as well as the fact that corruption, as we know, has huge costs to business around the world, it has benefits sometimes to the companies engaging in corruption, but from a social perspective, it has huge costs for society, estimated at over 1 trillion a year. So this is just, 2 examples of the costs of these practices to society.
Okay, and you are here today with a call to action to try and make that a little better. Max Heywood with Transparency International. Thank you. We appreciate it.